Welcome into the Leaf Edition. The real Kyper and Bourne show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, Derek Brandeo, and Jake the Snake Schultz with you for the next 2 hours. In about 35 minutes, we'll welcome in Joshua Kloke, Leaf writer for The Athletic. And then at the top of the hour, Andy Strickland, host of 590 The Fan in St. Louis.
What happened there?
They have a 590 The Fan in St. Louis. Did they
Come
rip,
on, is that real?
Did they rip us off?
What do you think? I was just making a joke?
Well, sometimes there's errors on the lineup, that's all.
Is that a copyright infringement? Should I run upstairs?
I don't know. Okay, guys.
We'll ask Andy.
Okay.
He, of course, will give us all the latest on the recent hiring of Jim Montgomery. The body wasn't even cold in Boston.
No. He just
And
rolled.
now leading the St. Louis Blues. In the meantime, we are live on Sportsnet 590 The Fan, Sportsnet 360, and Sportsnet Plus. The Toronto Maple Leafs keep it rolling.
Win again.
They play like once a month, but it's okay.
They're on the football schedule.
They get lots of practice.
Mm-hmm.
They're feeling good.
Yeah.
They get by the Utah Hockey Club on a rare Sunday, which felt really weird to me.
Weird weekend for hockey, wasn't it?
Really weird weekend.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, a 3-2 win and another 2 points, JB.
Yeah. I mean, hey, not going to take anything away from them. What a schedule. They play twice a week for 2 consecutive weeks, and then they're going to play 15 times in 31 days. So almost a game every other day. In December, every single weekend, they will play a back-to-back. So insane schedule coming up. But right now, that's a little strange. Took advantage of it yesterday. You know, what's so funny, Kip, is what storyline was developed for you? Because it's like goalie's still good.
Yeah.
Defense still good. Marner, Nylander, still good. Anything new, boys?
No, and I think it's just a build-up going into this week against 2 rivals. The Battle of the Atlantic Division will come into this weekend, and it was one of those games last night. Well, first and foremost, I mentioned a rare Sunday, which just felt like a sleepy night. And I don't know how the energy was at Scotiabank Arena last night, but I think everybody had that sleepy kind of Sunday night feel, including the Leafs to start the game.
Yeah.
Kind of ended the same way. They had a good second period. Big picture is they got through it. When you got game breakers like Nylander and Marner, that's the difference last night.
Yeah.
But one of those games where it's like, just get the 2 points and move on.
Funny, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Utah couldn't get to the rink on time. Like, I assume Taylor Swift had a concert Saturday night.
No, it was Sunday.
It was Sunday. Okay.
It was the Santa Claus parade this time.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
So, 5:15.
It's always something in this
You always
city,
have
boys.
a power play meeting at 5:15 or whatever, and they were walking to the rink because the bus wasn't moving at 5:15. So
People are laughing about that. That's one of the most embarrassing things in the world.
So that was kind of where I was going to go with it.
Are you kidding?
I was like, if you're the hockey ops guy for Utah, like, you don't want us talking about this. Like, you didn't build Toronto traffic into the plan.
Oh, that's your perspective.
Like,
interesting.
Yeah, what
interesting.
A failing.
I love that take. I was going the other way, being like, "This city's an absolute joke. That's an
sure.
They
total
could have left at
embarrassment."
noon, and
doesn't
in this
matter.
city, you could still be late.
Then
Okay,
leave
that's
at
how
noon.
bad it
then
is.
leave at noon. That's humiliating to me.
Ford's on it. He's on it. The bike lanes will be gone by Wednesday or Thursday, I'm told. So everything will be back to
That'll
normal.
fix it.
Yeah.
Sure.
That'll fix
Drive
it.
down the bike lane.
That'll do it.
Whatever the case with this city is, I just think that's embarrassing that they weren't there. So that was the Leafs' 10th home win this season. They're the first team in the NHL with 10 home wins. No team in the Atlantic Division has more than 6. So they weren't a very good team on home ice last year compared to the other very good teams.
Yeah.
That was one of the priorities,
They-
is be a tougher team at home.
I thought they actually showed flashes of this young team and some of their bright spots. Cooley.
I like Cooley.
Clayton Keller, you could see that there's some upside. They're just not ready, and they're not there yet. But there was times when they were just early. They looked a lot quicker than the Leafs.
Sure. But they remind me of a lot of teams. It's like every team has a few good players.
No, there's 15 of those. 18, 20. Keep going.
It's like,
I could be sold on 22, 24.
They got 4 good players who might get better. Like, they were. But I just thought, so yes, they are fast. I did see what you're seeing.
Yeah.
But there was a long stretch of that game, obviously the second period, where it was just like odd man rush Leafs, odd man rush Leafs. And it was like, God, are they playing with any structure? What's happening over there?
And they took some dumb penalties too. They're just like, come on.
You like that McBain though, don't you? Big guy hits.
Oh yeah, he could play. He could play on my team any day.
Yeah.
I think in years past, this one of the things we've complained about is the Leafs playing down to opponents and there are these trap games, and every team has them, but we talk about the Leafs, so we focus in on that. And they tried to trap that game. They tried their damnedest to make that a trap game. But I thought they did what they needed to do, where they have a horrible first, they play unbelievable hockey the second, like you said, power plays, and then they survive again in the third. Like, they score 1 to make it 3-2, and then they're buzzing around for the last minute of that Woll has to make an outstanding stretch save. I don't know who it was that he robbed with the leg.
Toe reach back was
like
sick.
They needed some of that
Cooley?
still.
I think it was.
But they survived the trap game before 2 really big ones this week, Wednesday against Florida, Saturday against Tampa. So full marks to surviving the trap game, which I thought was going to get them.
Okay, let's get to our first Kippers Clipper of the week, Craig Berube, on what he saw on this Sunday night.
We were flat in the first, I thought, and just, you can tell off face-offs and guys aren't jumping and they're not getting a pick and just little things like that. We didn't play north right away in the first. We were kind of like trying to go back and regroup too much. And, guys, I think we just talked about it between periods, and they did a real good job of adjusting and played a great second and drew some penalties. Power play was excellent, gave us a lot of momentum, and kind of changed the game.
Power play was excellent.
You take any goalie in the past outside of Joseph Woll and Stolars now, and you put Sheldon Keefe behind that bench, they lose last night.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Love this.
What do you got? What do you got?
Nothing. I'm just telling you, they would have found a way to lose that game last night.
Yeah. The part that Berube almost implies that, right? He's like, we wanted to regroup too much. And it's like that's the Keefe reference in there, right?
But it's all the underlying numbers now, right? Where this time last year, they might have had one of the worst save percentages 5-on-5. 1 year later, it's one of the best.
Yeah.
And you think that's related to how they're playing?
That's it. And we can point to goaltending. We can point to a deeper blue line. We could more structure. They don't give up the middle of the ice like they did in years past. You got to work your ass off to score a goal against the Leafs now.
Yeah.
They block shots and they take the middle of the ice. And when they do get pucks through, they're not. How many bad goals have we seen this year?
I got to tell you, the power play.
Honest to God, can you name one?
No. And how many times this time last year did we go, what's Samsonov doing there?
That's actually a funny thing to say. Can you name a bad goal a goalie's given up?
I'm trying to think of. I've watched a lot of hockey. I'm trying to think.
That's why I'm telling you.
The couple of goals in the Blues game, I didn't like. The Woll in and a couple sifters from the point. Okay. That's the last.
We're 20 games in.
I know.
You can name me 1 or 2.
That's
right.
it.
Right? Wild. That's wild.
It's like that's the difference.
Yeah.
That's why they won last night. Not bringing their best.
Yeah, the fundamental thing that's different for this team is, everyone's talking about, oh, look at all these guys the Leafs had out. They're without this guy, this guy, this guy, this guy. The thing that stayed the same through all this is 6D. Actually, 7 that have been the same 7.
Okay. This is something that I've been thinking about, and I don't know if I've brought it up to you guys before. Let me ask you this. Like, the way they're playing now and all their advanced defensive stats and all of what they look like and how they're playing. And, you bring in the veteran general manager, you bring in the veteran gruff head coach. Did this organization wait 3 years too long to do this? Yeah. Is there part of me watching the way they're playing right now? I'm like, oh my God, they wasted 3 years of 3 of the best Leafs of all time's primes by trying new things and trying different guys and betting on a rookie head coach in Sheldon Keefe, which he was at the time, betting on Kyle Dubas as a rookie general manager, one of the most important times. Am I going too far here?
No, you're too early on that. You're just too early for me.
Okay.
The one reason, the big difference to me, what looks all different, and I was kind of getting towards this point, is Tanev and Ekman-Larsson and even Hakanpää have changed how this D looks so drastically to me.
Yeah.
That's what's so different. Go ahead.
Yeah, two guys.
Hakanpää was a bit of reach for you there.
Yeah.
But that McCabe-Tanev pair, if you do like a lot of fancy sorting, Money Puck has a couple things where as a pair, they're the best expected goals against pair in the NHL amongst pairs that have played like 200 minutes. They're the top 5 in expected, so they've been elite,
Listen,
and that changes things for a team.
I know what you're saying, Sammy, for sure. And we've had conversations on Dubas and Sheldon Keefe up until the beginning of the Tree Living era, going like, if I would have picked a team that would look like Brendan Shanahan's kind of team, knowing what he's gone through in his career,
This is it.
This is it.
And what we saw in the past wasn't it.
Mm-hmm.
So we always had the head scratching of why is Brendan Shanahan trying to create this puck possession kind of east-west thing?
I think he
because
bought into the new.
He got talked into it.
For sure. He bought into it's going to be different, new age.
Yeah.
We're going to be ahead of the curve. We're going to be smarter than everyone.
And who's the salesman on that one?
That'd be Dubas, yeah.
Yeah.
So the one thing I will say that runs contrary to this is, we're talking about the D and being rock solid and that being a fundamental difference. It wasn't like Dubas didn't know that. Like he went out and he got Jake Muzzin. He went out and he got Ilya Lyubushkin. He went out and he got Joel Edmondson. They went out and got a bunch of guys to try to be this.
He was Lyubushkin. Edmondson was Treliving.
It was Edmondson
Yeah,
last
and then
year.
then Lyubushkin was the year before with Dubas. So they did it twice with
Lyubushkin.
But it was not proactive. It was reactive.
Absolutely.
It was after watching time and time again somebody getting to the net, or then it was just like,
in fairness, he didn't have all this to
you
draw
got to go
on like
get
Tree Living
somebody.
does.
And it's like, no, like it was always not enough and catch up.
That's a fair point, though. Like
everything's great.
Where, Kyle tried a lot of different things here, and clearly none of it worked very well.
Nice to come in and go, we know that doesn't work.
And then having that ability to be like kind of work off of that. But what I'm getting at here is, in 2 years of being here and 1 year of it being such a quick turnaround and him coming in here, he's given them the best 1B situation in net. He's given them the best D core they've ever had. And the forward core is incomplete. It's been all injuries or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like looking at, and I don't even think Brad Treliving's that great. Like I think he's just like a kind of a league average executive, and that's all it's taken.
Listen, you wouldn't have known for sure that Stolars was going to come in and look like a MVP of the league the first 20 games.
But I think it does help the situation you're talking about, the situation they're putting him in with their great defensive play. It's crazy. Yeah. So, I got a fun stat for you. Who do you think is last on the Leafs in hits amongst players who've played 5-10 games, like just a regular player?
Last on the Leafs in hits.
I mean, it's a weird one. It's off.
I want to say. I want to say. You're gonna give me like a Holmberg or a Lorentz. I don't know.
Chris Tanev.
Okay. All right. D.
Chris Tanev. Last on the Leafs in hits. But Sammy had this point. I brought this up to Sammy before the show where he said he's never chasing the play. He's stick checks, body position between the player and the net, shot blocking. He's in the lanes. Yeah. He defends so well without running after guys. Yeah. That's not, even though he's physically strong, that's not really his nature. He is tied for second most hits taken. He goes back on pucks first. He gets hit a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's been hit 41 times.
You don't see him proactive
running
taking the man out.
Yeah.
And he is it's just incredible in terms of how many pucks
they hit him all the time.
Get a chance to get to the goalie.
I know. It's crazy. And so one more positive on the D-core. They since Matthews has been out, and this is the team in general, at 5-on-5, they've allowed 9 goals against, which is the fewest in the NHL.
No, 8 in the NHL. Eight, sorry.
So 8 games, 8 goals against at 5-on-5 since Matthews has been out, which is the best in the NHL.
You know what the other side of that is?
We will, yeah, go ahead.
The other side of it is they've scored 9 5-on-5, which is also the fewest goals scored in the NHL.
Nothing is happening either way.
It's-
No goals.
To
Fewest
me,
and fewest.
to me, having like the fewest goals allowed is clearly incredible. And then when you take out maybe the best 5-on-5 goal scorer in the league from your team, that accounts for a lot of goals.
Sure does.
Like
We
that's
had
a
38
big
last
that's a
year.
big part of what the number is. And they score a lot on the power play now. They score when they need to. Half their lineup's missing.
Yeah.
Of course they're not scoring a lot of 5-on-5 goals.
Absolutely.
Like they're missing all their forwards.
And
They're
all the
playing-
guys they're plugging in, they're saying just play defense. Fraser Minton, take care of
And
your
Nick
end.
Robertson can't shoot it in a wide open net.
Oh my God, poor Nick Robertson.
Holy crap.
All right. You guys want to say anything about Mitch Marner? Because if I do, I'll just be driving the price up, and we don't want to do that. So I'm just going to be quiet, and then I'll let you guys, or do you want to just pass on Mitch Marner?
Yesterday's price
You should pass on
is
Mitch
not
Marner.
today's price.
I want to say that every game that goes past where I watch him play, and he's been brilliant in years past.
Yeah, wait for the playoffs.
No, it's not even what I'm getting at, Kim. No. Listen, I've said to you multiple times this year that they should just sign him. Like I've said it. I've said it to you in years past. I've changed a little bit during playoffs a couple times, but every time they play him now, and he's been brilliant without Matthews. Like he is elevated like Malkin used to do when Sid was out, when Draisaitl does, when McDavid, he's elevated. Every game that goes by without him signed, I get progressively more worried that he's going to leave and what the Leafs are going to look like. Like I really it's mid-November here. The Leafs always light it up in November. This is like the number
Actually,
one
would
time.
like to know their November record.
One of my buddies
5 years.
texted me a couple of days. It was like 36, 8, and 5 or something at like earlier this. Like they just light it up.
Yeah.
But we're getting it's almost December, and he's this homegrown superstar, clearly flawed. There's all this stuff with the market, but it's every game. I'm like, oh God, hey, no contract yet. He actually might be playing with Bedard next year. Like I'm coming to grips with it.
Yeah. And did you want to add something?
No,
on that?
I got nothing. I mean, you guys know my stance.
No, but like I think we
And,
fans, and myself included, are very hard on this guy. I've always been hard on this guy. Like it started with me. I've never liked London Knights, the whole deal from the start. Not a fan. But you are going to be a worse hockey team if he does not sign long term.
Yes.
There is no question. And sure, he's had his moments in the playoffs where it's not gone great. I know. I've talked about them. But the reality is there. And sure, you can go out in free agency and try to sign these guys. Ask the Bruins how that worked out.
Well, what I hope
That's how
doesn't
their
get-
cap space figured out when you signed Lindholm and Zadorov. And it's like, oh, you're below 500.
What I hope doesn't get lost from our conversation on Monday was the way that I started that conversation, which was the Leafs have messed this up. And that's a point that I maintain to this day, as he's a player you need to keep. There aren't that many of these guys. And the fact that it's at this point and now they're watching the cap go up and they're watching him have success and have the leverage at this point to say he's going to walk away kills them. And so they need to sign him. You're just not going to get better when he's gone. And so they've messed it up to this point, but they may have to eat it a little bit and say it's going to cost a bit more than it should have.
What's a bit?
Mitch
No, we're not doing this
Do you
again.
want to talk about
Mitch
it?
Marner
But
literally has the
now,
Leafs over a barrel.
So are you
He's got him over a
now?
barrel.
Is that?
Mitch Marner has the Leafs over a barrel.
Are you okay with now it not being a little bit more, but it being a lot more, and still signing him?
It's one of those things where it's like, I also believe that you can't have guys in the room who aren't putting the team first or are difficult or are repeatedly the person. Like this guy has constantly been a challenge for the Leafs and for the fan base. So there's definitely a limit for me where I'm not just like, now he's played good in November. We've seen that before.
How about you?
Open the checkbook.
I think I'm kind of like, are you going to lose Mitch Marner over $500K per year? Like, are you thinking about that $500K or extra $1 million bucks? Or are you thinking about that when he's scoring 100 points?
Say the 500K takes him past Matthews. You okay with that?
Listen, at this point,
Are you okay with that?
No, absolutely not.
Probably not. No, but if it's gonna either it's that or losing him, then I'd probably do it.
Then you're okay with it.
I'm not okay with it. No, but I accept it. I accept it. Listen, I do lots of things I'm not
You're
okay
saying
with.
don't
I
lose him,
accept it.
overpaying him 500 above it. It's going to piss you off,
It's
but
not
you're
that-
going to do it.
I'm not gonna if I'm Brad Treliving, I got my nose plugged while I'm signing it. I'm like, I know what the reaction to this is gonna be, but you're really going to lose a
See,
homegrown.
that's not how you felt last week.
Yes, it is.
No,
is.
it's not.
Listen, do I think he's? I said
I gave you the number 13, 14.
And
You shooed me away.
I didn't
Now a week
shoo.
later, you're telling me do it, but plug your nose.
Here's what I said. I still think Matthews is better, but with the way the cap's going up and all that stuff, I hate the number.
There's no
I hate
better
the number.
or worse. It's just the eye of the beholder on better or for worse.
Yeah.
It's what you need to do in a marketplace.
I know.
That's it.
And listen,
And
like
that
I
was
said,
all my conversation. It's like, it's better, worse. Who cares what your opinion is, better, worse? It's like, what's it going to take? What's
Yeah.
it going to take?
and my stance on it is that if it's either he signs for a penny more than Matthews and he stays, or he leaves, I'm going to have to plug my nose. But I'm telling you right now,
Okay.
the perception of that in this market, maybe he doesn't even want that.
Can we put to bed this whole crap of I got to see what he does in the playoffs first? Can we put that to bed?
Why? Why would you do that?
I
What
would-
are you talking about right now? God, are we really doing this
Well, no,
again?
no, it's not.
What are you talking about?
I'm saying, do you want to sign him or you don't want to
That's the
sign
point
him?
he's making, Bourne. He's that if he's gone, he's gone.
There's no waiting for the playoffs. That's not the way it works. We're going to treat you like crap until you prove me otherwise in the playoffs, and then we're going to welcome you with open arms. It doesn't work that way.
Because, listen, the way it's going to go after the playoffs, either he rips it up, where they finally, Berube's got the magic potion, and they actually get past. And everyone's like, oh, great. And then it's like, he's cost $15 million now. Or they stink again and no one wants him. So there's just...
I don't get why it's so complicated here. Like so they have their internal cap with
Yeah.
Matthews, which we discussed on Monday. And to me, that is a hard line for them. And if you wanted more than that, then he can go. And if there's numbers underneath that he's cool with, let's do it.
Yeah.
If not, then it's like there's so much more politicking and grinding and feelings involved. It's just like it's like being
It's
in a
not
relationship with someone who's too challenging. It's like I just would rather not do that.
But it's not like politicking is one thing and just business is the other. And it's supply and demand. It's how badly you want something, how much you're willing to pay for it. Where's the politicking in all of this?
Well, it's whatever they do to get the media to.
Oh my God. There's no media. There's nothing.
We're the media. Yes, we are.
Hey, I got news for you guys. Nobody gives a crap what we say. Nobody. They don't care about social media. They don't care about us. We cannot influence. Nothing. It's what is it worth to you? What is it worth to Brendan Shanahan? What is it to Keith Pelly, MLSC? What is he worth to you? Not us. Not social media. The politicking that you guys think about, it doesn't work.
See, this is ridiculous because we talk about this stuff on the show all the time, and it's concerned. And all we get back from you is, oh, this market is so hard on him. The social media is so hard on him. This market's so hard on him.
It has nothing to do with price.
seem to
It has
care.
nothing to do with business.
Well, it seems
it's
to.
emotional. No, it's emotional. That's an emotional element to what can factor in his decision making. But it's not business. It's not business.
Yeah.
So then what are you saying? Right now you are saying,
I'm saying I think they may have to just open up the checkbook and just say, to my point, I told you guys last week, number one priority, do whatever it takes to sign a guy. Number two is try to get the best price. Number three, don't let one affect the other.
And I hate to say that I agree, but I do agree. Like, I hate it. I hate it. Like I said,
I would love to go back to the end of playoffs and listen
No,
to
I know.
what you said about him then.
You know what?
I know,
and
but-
then the other stuff could factor in. Mitch could sit there and go, you know what, I made $70 million already.
Yeah.
It's not about that. I'm just tired of being watched and blamed. And then, all that stuff can factor in.
What about this? Is there any chance that this market is so hard on him that they could trade him? That they could actually get someone who they think suits them better for playoffs, that they could have
March?
assets? Well, sure. On the way here, on the way here, is this a guy, because coming into this year, some of the talk was, could we, is this a guy who it's going to be so miserable on? You talked about it with Tavares, that you just say, it sucks for you here. Fans aren't happy.
They can't do that because he is the engine right now,
do you think,
right? He's the engine.
do you think he wants to stay here?
I have no idea.
No feeling. no sense.
I know he speaks the truth when he says, this is my hometown and I love it here, but I don't know in terms of what he's gone through emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually. I have no idea how it's affected him.
Yeah.
It's been hard on him.
I think it's probably been pretty hard on all of them, but.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know.
But did we just do
No,
it
that was
again?
that was better. That
I
was better.
did
That
my
was
very best not to say anything.
That was progress. I thought we still were a little disagreement, but we were a little bit more, like.
I mean,
You're right, though, about.
Here's what I think happens. Here's my honest
I was going to
opinion.
say, like maybe Dr. Dana helped us last week.
That's right. Here's what I think happens.
Doctor.
I think that sometime in the next month or so, I think he signs 8 times, like it's probably 12, 7, 5, or 13. That's what I think happens. I think we get a report it's just done, and we move on, and everyone is rooting for the Leafs and Marner, and off you go.
Is that off of a 8-game winning streak?
What does that mean?
It means like if you're having a bad month, people are gonna.
But do you think that
You know what I'm saying? It's
how
like,
much? But here's the question.
Sure,
I'll ask.
yeah.
And then
How
he's-
much can the price go up or down? Because everybody knows who he is. Everybody knows how good he is. Everybody knows how great he is in the regular
You're right.
season.
Well,
how much
this
can the
whole thing
price go up
started
or
with my
down?
point being like the range is not that big here.
No.
Of what he's going to earn. So I don't know. Like
Just let him earn it. So we don't have to talk about it anymore.
well, up until
So we
Matthews,
did this with
obviously.
Nylander, by the way, right? We did a lot of this with Nylander when he went through it,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh, we did a lot of it.
And it's not going away, and it will be a distraction until you wake up or we wake up
Yeah.
one day and say it's done.
And I honestly think that would be the best thing for the Marners and the Maple Leafs
Yeah.
if it's just like it doesn't have to be miserable for
Okay.
people, you know?
So 13 times 8, you're good now, right? Like
You clearly picked the high end of that, and I'm gonna leave. I'm biting my tongue hard.
No, here's
it's okay.
13 times 8. Here's me.
It's okay.
I'm plugging the nose, baby.
You guys are doing it now.
I'm plugging the nose. I'm plugging the nose.
All right, let's get Craig Berube on Marner. Clip 4, Derek.
Like everyone, our listeners, they checked out.
I
They
think it's
stopped
business
listening.
as usual. I think, even, early on in the year, he was playing really good hockey for us in all situations, not just scoring and everything. I find he's shooting a little bit more, which is great. I think he can still shoot more, but, he's doing a real good job for us.
It's funny that he shot into the left side of the net, but it was actually high glove this time.
Yeah,
He just only ever goes low blocker on his shots, and he shot
raised it a bit for a switched goalie.
Yeah, it was weird, but anyways.
It does sound like Matthews wants to play Wednesday night, and there's just not a chance that you could start him with Mitch Marner together Wednesday night.
You think so no.
I don't. Not for me.
Mm-hmm.
Not for me. I think
It's crazy how good Tavares looks. Like there was a play last night where a Utah player's bringing the puck behind the net in the Leafs end. He zips down low, cuts him off, runs him into the boards. They break the puck out. And it's like, what?
Yeah. I know.
Glorious
Listen,
amulet.
You can't take anything away. He's pushing hard.
He's wearing 6 amulets. He is.
The contract.
Think he wants one
Waiting.
soon too, or what?
It's just natural. These guys, they know.
I mean, this could be the ideal scenario for the Leafs.
It could be.
where he's lighting it up in a contract year,
Yeah.
and then
And then
Let him walk?
go get him some help though at the center ice position, because they're going to need a third. They're going to need a 1, 2, 3.
I can't watch another game of Pontus at center. I know we've been high on the stuff he does.
No. They're going to have to go.
No offense.
They're going to have to go get somebody, and then if it gets a little heavy, then you can have someone push off a little bit for John. Because John, listen, say what you will about John, and I'm the first guy to say, sometimes the skating's not there or he doesn't pass the puck as well as I'd like, but that guy has got a real heavy stick, man. Like he's got one of the strongest sticks you'll ever see, and
Wins
he
puck
can
battles.
still find a way to produce. And if you can find a third centerman between the three of them, I think it may be enough to push hard in the playoffs.
pretty good pass to Marner on the breakaway too.
Yeah.
How many times have we seen Marner in the last 8 years, like sniffing up there?
Not very often.
Not very often.
No,
Not
but
very
It
often.
was good recognition. He saw that Tavares had got the puck below the goal line, and off he went. Great pass. I was thinking about this. This is so stupid. We got to go. But why was 2-line pass ever a rule?
really was a
It's the most
buzzkill.
absurd rule
Guys on
of
a
all
breakaway
time.
out of their seat.
There's some nights I wish it was back.
What
Okay.
are you talking?
I'm just
Why?
saying, because sometimes it's like chip and chase
Well, the Leafs
and ping pong.
Did that
Out,
long
in,
stretch tip
out,
dump in, which I hated.
Okay. Sometimes it gets a little, it can get a little, when the D aren't sleeping, like Utah last night,
Yeah, they weren't great.
it can get a little ping pong-ish.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a quick break. When we come back, Joshua Kloke from The Athletic, Leaf writer, will join us. We'll get into a ton more, including Alex and Willie,
We didn't even
the
mention
wee Willie brothers.
that. We didn't mention
We didn't mention anything.
Yeah, we did.
Is that you guys really want to go heavy on that one?
The Nylander thing?
Yeah.
Heavy is probably not the right word.
I thought it was.
Huh?
I thought it was super sweet.
It's the first brother
Super
since in what,
sweet.
like 40 years or something?
I don't care.
All right, we'll get into it after the break. Super sweet conversation coming up after the break. Welcome back to the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee, and let's welcome in Joshua Kloke, Leaf writer for The Athletic, regular on our show. For those of you that cannot see him on Zoom, nice jersey.
Thank you. When did I get regular status? How does one get regular status? I've been pining for that. That's great.
It's like the Olympics. Once every 4 years, if you make it on our show, you're a regular.
Okay, so that's a pretty low bar. I don't feel that good about it now.
You know who's got a high bar is the Leafs these days. So if we look at the half a dozen regulars out, including their superstar Austin Matthews, and they've got the record that they have,
Yeah.
and I ask you, what's the main reason why? Your first thought goes to where?
Yeah, probably Mitch Marner and William Nylander. That's the obvious one. Like we can talk about them, buying in and checking more and being really, having really locked things down defensively, and that's important. The goaltending is important too, but as simple as it sounds, you win games by scoring more than the other team, and they wouldn't be doing that without Mitch Marner and William Nylander. And I know the Mitch Marner, topic of conversation is a constant one around these parts, but like, boy, he's really set himself up. And like you push it forward too. Does the success that they've had without Austin and the fact that, William and Mitch are really carrying things right now, does that not make you want to explore balancing those guys on 3 different lines when Austin comes back? That's where my mind goes. I don't know where you guys are at, because when he does come back, things are going to look a little bit different. I don't know if you should be breaking up Mitch and John Tavares right now, just the way that they're playing. The idea of putting those 3 guys on 3 different lines, that's my kind of big takeaway. I don't know where you guys are at.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, any line that Willie's on, he can kind of make an effective line, right? Doesn't seem to matter. But you did mention the goaltending. One thing fascinating, I think, over the 8 games since Matthew's been out, the Leafs goaltending is a .942 save percentage. Next best in the league over that time is .928. They're .929. They're running away with it. So does the way that Joseph Woll has looked change things at all? It felt like we were just going to settle into Stolarz as the guy and Woll's his backup. Are we sure about that?
We're not sure about that. And, I'm a regular. You guys know I'm a Joe Woll guy, and I always have been. Like, this is a guy with incredibly high-end talent. You talk to goalie people around the league, they all say the same thing. If he can figure it out and stay healthy, he's a top 10 goalie in the league. And you just see the Leafs in front of him looking a lot more relaxed. I know that there's times, especially last season, there were constant questions about whether or not he can stay healthy, but he just has that game-breaking ability. And I just think that he's your guy long-term, right? Like if he falters, sure, but even if there's questions about who's the number 1 right now, there's no question about who's the number 1 long-term. And I think it probably took Joe Woll some time to kind of remember that to start the season. And now that he's in that frame of mind, like he looks like a top 10 goalie in the league. So yeah, like we'd be remiss not to kind of give a lot of credit to the goaltending. The Leafs now have organizational goaltending depth. Like I don't remember the last time they had depth like this. Do you guys? It gives Leafs fans the ability to breathe a sigh of relief, because you always knew, over the last few years, you'd go, Yeah, but can Freddie do it in the playoffs? Yeah, but Jack Campbell seems like one bad game away from, disappearing. And Ilya Samsonov, he was very open about his struggles. There just seems to be a calm about the Maple Leafs goaltending.
Mm-hmm.
That again, like you guys know, like when was the last time we were able to say that?
Kloke, you follow the Marlies as well. Is it Akhtiamov and Hildeby? They're both having like high-end seasons, right? I'm thinking of potential trade chips here as we move towards the deadline when you have 4 goalies and you have no assets.
Why does everyone go to trade chip for Hildeby and Akhtiamov? Congrats, pronunciation flawless, by the way.
Awesome.
But why does everyone say that when like for me, the guy that you might want to move is Matt Murray, right? Because he's a little bit more proven, and he's a guy that like if you're a team that has goaltending questions and you're like, we lack that solid number 2. Because I truly believe Dennis Hildeby is the number 3 in the organization right now. I really do. Me and our boy Jonas Siegel had many heated debates about this, but I really believe he's the guy. He's another goalie of the future for them. So I don't know why you would be quick to flip these guys, because we've seen for generations it's so hard for the Leafs to find goaltending. Why are we so eager to get rid of them?
Because there's other teams, Joshua, that understand that he is the number 3 and Matt Murray really isn't. And that's the appeal. That's the value. That's what's going to bring you value back, is giving up some value. And that would be my focus if I'm another team. It wouldn't be on Matt Murray, especially if I'm a team that isn't quite ready to contend just yet. That's the guy I circle.
I don't disagree. Can you get that really, really good number 3 center you want for one of 2 AHL goalies right now? I just think it's going to be some
high end. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you
so?
can. Yep. You can.
Well, I still don't think you do that, because like you have Stolarz for 2 years. You're still, again, I'm a Joe Woll guy, but you're still not going to know if he's going to be able to stay healthy for a while now. And like you're always going to need, you got to give these guys time to figure it out and figure out what they're going to be. Akhtiamov in particular, like he's 7 games into his AHL career. He has 2 shutouts. He's got a glove hand that is NHL ready. And the Leafs have just done such a good job, and I hinted at this before, of finding goalies who are level. It was almost as if, the Campbells and the Samsonovs, that was a wake-up call throughout the organization. Find boring goalies. Find guys that, like, when the temperature gets cranked up, they're just going to stay even keel. And that's what you see with all of these guys. There's almost no personality to them. And I don't mean that in a bad way. There's no kind of room for them to fly off the handle. So, like, Kyper, you're right. Like, I think when we get closer to writing these articles about who are the Leafs going to want to trade, they're not going to trade Cowan, they're not going to trade Minton. Those guys, are tough to find too. The Hildebys and the Akhtiamovs will be towards the top, but like, I just think for the sustainability of the organization, you can't move them. I know I'm probably in the minority there.
So we know that they are going to get healthier soon this week at some point, whether or not it's Wednesday or Saturday. Nyes will be back. Matthews will be back. Domi will be back when it's
maybe
at some point.
Yeah.
Once they start getting healthy, Joshua, who's on the outside looking in?
Well, probably much to the chagrin of Leafs Twitter, it's probably Gribyenkin is going to be on the way out. Like, as much as great a story as he's been, like you look at him and you're like, wow, this looks like a real exciting player in 2 years. This looks like a real exciting player if he could figure out how to play within a team structure. Because you guys have watched him, you can't take your eyes off him because you don't know what he's going to do. He's so unpredictable on the ice. And that's just not a Craig Berube player right now. I wonder if Fraser Minton sticks. I really do, because if you're looking for like a bottom line center, don't you just want someone that is safe and you can trust? Like he's working on finding the offense, and that's the piece really missing. But the trust factor is there. They put him on PP1. Like there's something there. They like him. They like him a lot. because you put him out there and you're not worried that like the wheels are going to fall off. I'm inclined to think he sticks. Someone like Pontus Holmberg is still not there yet, so that's one I wonder about. But the organization really, really likes Fraser Minton, and frankly, I know it's a small sample size, but I think I can see why.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of threw him to the wolves. I mean, they started him in the D zone heavy. I think scoring chances were terrible, like 15-4 when he was on the ice. And not that he didn't look good. They just put him against good competition, starting in the D zone. They gave him a handful to deal with. Part of me wonders, like, for the good of the organization and the good of development, you want to get Minton right. Does Alex Steeves actually have the best chance of being a mainstay with this team all the way? He's running into bodies. He's older. He's lighting it up in the American League. Like, is he a guy you could put on a fourth line and actually get a bit of offense from while doing the right things?
Yeah, Alex Steeves looks a lot different than the Alex Steeves that came up over the last 2 seasons, and you were kind of like, okay, this is a Band-Aid for now. Like, I know for a fact Alex Steeves got very excited when Tree Living and Berube took over because, like, he told me repeatedly in training camp, he's like, I think I got that dog in me and I want to let it out.
Did he say
I want to
that?
let it out. He literally said that. I'm really frustrated. I didn't wedge it into a story somewhere. He's like, but I got that dog in me and I want to let it out. And so you can see him doing that. Like, you want players that adjust to what the coaches want. And you see that out of Alex Steeves. I think, it's just, he hasn't really popped offensively. Like, he's an energy guy and that's great and that works. But I just don't know if the high end tools are there. And like, you can say the same about Fraser Minton offensively, I'm sure, but he is so good defensively. Like, just to bring it back to him, like I was watching him in practice the other day and just like honing in on him. He does so many things that you don't see 8-year veterans in the NHL do defensively. Little things like, coming in on the rush, he's tying up the defenseman's stick, just like it's second nature, right? And these are things that take a long time for players to learn. And I just think, again, there's a trust level there with Alex Steeves. He's the type of player, again, a lot of energy, needs to get hot and needs to start scoring. But I guess if we're ranking, I'd go Minton, Steeves, and way down there, Grubyankin right now.
Josh, really appreciate your time. Thanks for joining the show, pal, as always.
I'm a regular. I have to.
You
now.
are a regular.
Choice. I don't have any choice.
Thanks,
You
Kloke.
want the same contract as Doug McLean?
Ask for a better one. Ask for a better one.
Okay, I'll take all of this into consideration. This is good. I'll let my agent know.
Really appreciate it.
Thanks,
Yeah.
That is
Take care, guys.
Joshua Kloke, Leaf writer for The Athletic, and good guest to have for our show.
Just quickly, I saw Elliot Friedman send out a bit of a bombshell tweet. Was that this morning or last night about Kreider and about Trouba, about how they're looking to shake things up in New York or whatever. Either of those guys make sense in Toronto? Would they trade him to a Eastern Conference rival?
No.
Mike? Is your mic on? No.
As I said, how does that happen? How do you have names that big get thrown into the mix? What's their team, 12-7 or something like that? And they're getting 2 giant names on the team?
Listen,
Trade bait?
Trying to throw a little
I
grenade
know-
into that room?
I know that Kreider's considered, top guy right now in the league, but Max Pacioretty came in and did something that I didn't think he'd be able to do for the first 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
You got to get him back before you think about Kreider and upsetting. That's a major trade. That's a significant move.
What, are you worried about stepping on Max Pacioretty's toes?
No, I'm sitting there going, you got a cheaper version of him right now.
Mm-hmm. What is Kreider's contract? I
6
wonder?
something, isn't it?
6'2".
Yeah, and they're not going to be looking to eat.
They're both
3-1.
like 6'3". They could hit, like right now. Max Pacioretty is probably a better body checker than Kreider. I know Kreider's great, but like Nyes is Kreider now.
Nice
for
is
me.
Kreider. Totally agree. Kreider.
So you don't need that. Sammy.
Also,
Okay.
let me ask you if this description fits something Kip would like for this show. 9 goals, 0 assists.
Cy Young.
Cy.
Young. Yeah, Cy Young candidate.
Okay, we just get your thoughts on the soon-to-be made-for-TV Willie and Alex Nylander game last night.
You know, nice story. Alex had a couple of good chances. I thought the one he threw up into the collarbone was a good shot.
You got some power play time?
Do we want to hear from them at all? I mean, do we?
I have a Nylander clip
I
where he
gotta
says
tell
it's
you,
special.
These guys don't say anything at the best of times.
But it's nice for TV, I guess.
All right.
No.
Isn't it?
I think I don't have a brother, I have a sister. I don't know the brother dynamic.
Listen, it's nice. It was a nice story.
For two guys to make it to the greatest league in the world and have them end up on the same sheet of ice playing for the same hockey team.
They're also besties. Like,
It's
they're
pretty amazing.
long time, not just brothers. These two were like legitimate. They call each other best friends.
But like, it's going to be hurt a lot when three guys come back and Alex is on waivers. Probably not going to be great for the relationship. But yeah, at least they got to play together on the Leafs.
Yes.
Feel-good story, I guess, for the family.
It's great.
Right? I mean, Alex has struggled. He's on his 5th team.
The thing is, Alex is, he had 15 goals in the NHL last year, 11 in 23 games last year. Alex had, it's
And
not
they
like
never kept him.
They didn't keep him.
And they're Columbus.
God, I can't.
Like how?
I can't tell you. I didn't notice that. Yeah.
If they can't use you.
If they can't use a guy who scores 0.5 goals per game, then again, this could be a fair criticism of Columbus.
Yeah.
But I will note, Columbus beat Boston, Tampa Bay, and Carolina this week.
Pretty good.
Sammy, you mentioned it earlier in the show, but I mean, you do feel for Nick Robertson. Like, this guy's shooting everything that moves now, eh? It's like he is trying so hard to get this monkey off his back.
I don't even disagree with like the coach and the GM who are like, he's playing pretty well. Like he
draws penalties. I mean, he's always being cross-checked, and
I'd draw penalties in the NHL too because I'd get knocked over a lot.
Yeah, I felt bad for Lamoureux, was it, that got him on the first one? Like, that was a stock cross-check in front of the net. Like, nothing there. The second one, he buried him. Yeah. But the first one, he just kind of fell over, and the ref keeps bailing him out. I think he leads the team in drawing penalties because he falls. I mean, if you fall over 7 times a game, hopefully you get a couple penalties.
You know who used to draw a ton of penalties because they didn't skate great? Remember Freddie Gauthier? He was like 6'5", and guys would like knock him over because he didn't skate great. And arm would go up. He's 6'5".
It looks big.
Must have been ruthless.
But they got to start going in for Nick.
You want to listen? Let's listen. Clip 6, Nick Robertson.
I thought Nicky had a good game, though. Worked extremely hard, was in the right spots defensively and did his job. Had some looks and it didn't go in. I mean, he's just got to stick with it. It's going to go in eventually for him. We all feel for him, and we want him to put the puck in the net. And he's just, I mean, it's not easy. It's not, I wouldn't know anything about it because I didn't worry about that. But, I mean, he's the type of player that wants to score goals, and that's part of his job. But he did some real good things tonight, even though he didn't score.
Did he?
Sure about that?
There's got to be some team you can go to that.
I'm so excited.
Just
much like after Marner signs,
them.
I'm so happy to not have the conversation. And much like Nick Robertson going to play for Columbus, I can't wait, boys. God, I can't wait.
Might be somebody mid. Doesn't have to be the worst
Go
team
to a
in the
mid
league.
Team?
Okay,
Go
wherever.
to a mid team.
Wherever it is, I just can't wait for it. Can't wait.
All right. Barely halfway through the show.
Matthews going to play Wednesday?
I think he wants to.
I think no.
I think no.
Everyone says yes, but I think no.
I say no.
He's trying.
The incentive.
Tomorrow will be key.
You miss one game, you get another week off. Pretty tough.
Tomorrow's practice will be key, I think, for him. But I think he wants to, and it's a good game. It's an important game.
Sam Bennett's like, play.
Oh, I got 7 guys, they're better without him.
Our thanks to Joshua Kloke in this Leaf edition of our show. We go national next. We'll welcome in Andy Strickland. We'll talk Jim Montgomery, St. Louis Blues, and plenty more. All right, let's take it national on the Real Kyper and Bourne Show. We are live on Sportsnet 650 in Vancouver, Sportsnet 960 in Calgary. This hour, Real Kyper and Bourne is brought to you by Bet365. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. In a few minutes, we'll welcome in Andy Strickland, co-host of Cam and Strick podcast. We'll get the latest on the St. Louis Blues, who have fired Drew Bannister and replaced him with Jim Montgomery.
Crazy.
That was fast.
That was fast. And very strange. Not even strange, just like I don't ever remember GM saying the things Armstrong has said, where he's basically like, had nothing to do with our coach and had everything to do with the guy who was available.
I mean, I sent that graphic to you guys with the Bruins firing coaches, but I think their last 3 that they've fired, Claude Julien, Cassidy, and now Montgomery, was under 10 days that all of them ended up with a new team.
And they all wanted Jack Adams while coaching the Bruins.
Yeah, and they all had good records on them.
Yeah.
Cutthroat in Boston.
Yeah. And we've seen probably I don't know, what's the number now in the last year and a half, 2 years, almost 20 firings.
Yeah,
It's been off the charts.
Turnover is worse than ever.
But it's not hard to figure out. It's an easy way to shake up your lineup because guys and the salary cap you've been in jail with your salary cap. You can't get rid of contracts. And these guys aren't on a salary cap. So it's just money in, money out, and there's no repercussions. It's not going to hold your team back.
Unless you have a budget.
It's just cash.
Internal,
It's just cash. It's not like it's costing you anything.
I wonder, I'd like to see a stat will coach the length of coaching tenures go longer once the salary cap is higher because teams will have more flexibility to actually make trades and change their roster.
Yeah.
Right now, for the last couple of years, it's felt like looking at the buttons you can push and all there is fire coach.
Oh, no, it's going to open up floodgates for sure. I wonder in the next CBA if you they should have put the coaches on the salary cap too.
Coaches don't want to hear that.
Do you think
they'd still have jobs though?
the coach has been getting fired forever? I don't think a coach
You don't think it's been more frequent?
No,
Oh my God!
Let's
Look at
get
the
our
stats.
statisticians.
Look at the stats.
Okay. Okay.
We got it. We can provide this.
You think more coaches have been fired in the last year than ever?
Ever.
I mean, I think it's a very up and down sort of thing. I think there's certain years where it's really bad and there's certain years where it's not as bad. I think it just goes up and down. I wouldn't say
How many coaching firings?
there's been a lot.
I can't immediately pull this up, but I know I've done this before.
You're great at this.
Oh, I used to be. We can definitely find out how many
Someone's
coaches
gonna
per
send
year.
it to us.
Yeah, someone let us know. But there's definitely been a uptick in
Okay.
firings of coaches during the post-pandemic, we'll say.
Okay. So I guess I guess you're right. I don't know. It just feels like my whole life coaches have been getting fired for teams underperforming. I don't know if it's
Part of it is there's 1,000 teams now.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's true too.
Sounds
That
like
helps. That helps.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, let's welcome him in. Andy Strickland, who used to be on a station 590 The Fan because Sammy wrote that on me, but apparently you were fired. Was that true from them?
That's a false report.
Hey, we all do. We all get fired. How are you, pal? You are strictly Cam and Strick podcast. And then where else are you working?
Well, so I do some stuff with another radio station here in town, the Big 550 KTRS. We'll give them a shout out. But I took my longtime radio show to strictly a podcast format. So it's called Hockey Sense. And I do it on just a podcast. I figured why not? I already have one podcast. It's easier that way. Control your own show.
Hey,
that's what I'm doing.
You're way ahead of the curve. We haven't caught up to it yet. Thanks for joining us, Andy. Tons of news for a team that isn't supposed to contend, basically, right?
Yeah, they're not really supposed to contend, but they weren't expected to. I think be as lethargic. That's the best way to describe this team heading into at least where we're at right now. I mean, just so inconsistent, not a whole lot of identity. I think that's the word that's being tossed around. You don't know how this team is going to start games, how they're going to start periods, what you're going to get out of certain guys. The injuries have they've played a part. There's no doubt. I mean, Nick Leddy is a guy that's not getting a whole lot of attention, but he's been out for several games. He's an NHL player. You could certainly use him. You combine that with Philip Broberg, who's been out. Now you're forced to elevate certain defensemen up the lineup. You didn't have Robert Thomas for a number of games. So, but at the same time, a lot of players have really regressed since training camp in the preseason. They brought over Alexander Texier. They thought they'd get more from him. Matthew Joseph is a guy that has kind of been in and out. Same with Dylan Holloway, who they brought over with Broberg, obviously, with the offer sheet. So I think they expected a little more consistency, not to mention they haven't gotten a ton out of the Shens and the Kypreos and the Vucinoviches. Thomas is starting to put up some points since he came back. I think he has 3 points in 3 games. But still, there's more to give. Power play's been inconsistent. All the statistical categories that you connect to coaching, it just hasn't been good enough. Something's been missing. But with all that being said, the reason why we got that news yesterday was strictly because of Jim Montgomery's availability. If he's not available, I think Drew Bannister is still behind the bench coaching tonight at MSG.
I think we'll get more into Jim Montgomery, but just take a look back at the guy who got the axe for Jim here. Is Drew Bannister been given a fair shake here? He's at home today. How do you think he's feeling about the opportunity he was provided to coach the team?
Listen, fair shake. I mean, you look at the number of games, 22 games this season. You look at the number of games he coached last year, as an interim guy. Probably isn't fair, but at the same time, I don't think they were overly committed to Drew Bannister. Let's face it, they gave him a 2-year contract. I said the other day that if I'm a coach, if you have any leverage nowadays, you better give me at least minimum 5 years based on what you're talking about. If I know you're going to fire me 2 or 3 years from now, I want a 5-year deal. And Monty got a 5-year deal. So it just kind of shows you the type of commitment in terms of what they were willing to give to Drew Bannister. Doug Armstrong has 2 more years in his contract as a GM before he slides into a president role for 3 seasons with Alexander Steen. So, probably not fair, but at the same time, you've got a guy who has history with the organization, a real relationship with the organization, not just one where he knows some guys. He knows Army very, very well. Army gave him a second chance a few years back. The first team to hire him after he was fired by the Dallas Stars. Took advantage of the situation with Boston to put himself in this spot. He knows a lot of the players. He was here as an assistant, like I mentioned. I think 11 guys are still here who he worked very, very close with. Al McInnes, Keith Kachuk, guys that are heavily involved with the organization. Alexander Steen, he's super tight with a lot of these guys. So again, when he became available, I think throw everything out the window, including, what's fair and what's not. It was about not necessarily just today, but moving forward with Jim Montgomery as the head coach.
Cam, where do you have the sense of urgency on Doug Armstrong to pull this deal off? Because I'm told that, part of the big push was the fact that maybe someone else might have been sniffing this thing out. And, I haven't confirmed anything, but I got to think that Stevie Yzerman in Detroit was looking around and trying to figure out what his situation may be in the next week or two.
You know what? And I talked to somebody in the organization about that today, because Detroit's probably the one team that you look at right now that's probably closest to making a move. And that's why you can't mess around with this. It reminds me of years ago when Davis Payne was the head coach. He's now an assistant in Winnipeg. And Doug Armstrong had taken over, and Ken Hitchcock was available. He was a consultant with Columbus. Of course, he had long history with Hitch in Dallas. And that was his guy, and so he went ahead and made the move around the same time of the year. Nobody was really anticipating or expecting a move. Wasn't overly shocking. This one wasn't overly shocking. It almost made too much sense. But you're right. You don't want to allow another team to come in and take your guy. If you know you're going to make the move, and Doug Armstrong told me this a long time ago, once you know you're going to fire a coach or you know you're going to make a move, and the guy that you want is available, what's the point in waiting? And even if the Blues would have won that game the other night, I mean, his firing wasn't predicated on how they performed against the Islanders. If the Blues won that game 6-1, you're probably still seeing a press conference or at least a news release on Sunday announcing Jim Montgomery signed a 5-year deal with the Blues.
So tell us a little bit about Monty's time with St. Louis as an assistant coach. He had gone through a hard time in Dallas. Had been let go there and came in as an assistant coach behind Berube, if I'm not mistaken. And, seems like he formed some roots there. They kept a house there, if I'm not mistaken, too.
He kept a house here. His wife is from St. Louis.
Okay.
I mean, his son was playing AAA hockey here in St. Louis just a couple of years ago. In fact, he plays on the same team as Barrett Jackman's son. And there was some talk when Monty got the job in Boston, maybe trying to, find either a billet for his son or maybe his son would stay with grandparents. Of course, his wife is from St. Louis, like I said. So they've got a lot of family here. When Boston was here a few days ago, maybe like a week or two ago, I think he had something like 25 friends and family at the game. I mean, he really is a St. Louis guy. It's the perfect storm for the Blues, but it's even more perfect for Jim Montgomery. You get a chance to come home. How do you not take it? Not only did he play for the Blues years ago, but he also was a player coach for the Missouri River Otters, in the United Hockey League, so he's been around St. Louis for years. When he was playing, he was training in St. Louis and he was living here in the summer, spends a lot of time here in the summer. So his role with Craig Berube was, as pretty much his lead assistant. And he formed great relationships. He had a number of different text chains going on with different sectors of the team, Russian players, power play guys, different line combinations. If you know Monty, he is a communicator and a people person. Always has a great relationship with his players. Now, he's not afraid to get in the face of his top guys either, which I think you need. We saw that earlier this year, benching Pasternak, getting in the face of Brad Marchand in the third period of a game after he had a little bit of a careless turnover. So I think he's willing to do that. Listen, the team in Boston, I think it became very moody there. It got to a point where sometimes I think you just have to make a change. But I don't think it's a real reflection on who he is as a coach in terms of how they performed this year. Probably overachieved a little bit the last couple of years, struggled this year. But there's no doubt the Blues just got a significant upgrade in terms of the potential he can have with this group here.
We know when this team's finally ready to compete again, it'll be led by Robert Thomas and Kyrou, but there's also 30-plus something guys. Brendan Saad, Braden Shen, 33 and 32 respectively. And then on the blue line, Parayko, Falk, Nick Leddy, you mentioned earlier. And then, of course, Ryan Suter's on his last legs. But who's going to be around, and who's not going to be around in the next 3 months or 12 months, for Montgomery?
Those are difficult contracts to move too. You know that. When you got term on an aging player north of 30, and we're talking 6.5 AAV for guys like Falk and Shen. Shen's your captain. He's going to, center the second line tonight for Jim Montgomery. I think Monty is, and I think he's going to give him an opportunity to maybe flex a little bit offensively and see if he can, recreate that confidence that Shen has had most of his career that maybe is lacking a little bit right now. And get these guys to play a little more on the inside. They've been way too perimeter. I think that's been a criticism of the Blues. I mentioned lethargic, but just not a whole lot of emotion in their game. Typically, you get that boost with the new coach. I would think tonight that you're going to see an emotional effort from the team. At least you hope so. But, Saad's a guy that has some playoff experience, obviously some winning experience. His cap hit's a little lower, not as much left on the term. I would think that there would be some teams interested in some of these guys in the event you get there come trade deadline time. It's interesting. Jordan Kyrou is obviously a former second round pick, I should say. Great pick in the second round, really. Still kind of evolving as an NHL player. They feel like his play away from the puck has gotten much better this season. He's hit the post a bunch, so maybe he's been a little bit snake, but only has 6 goals on the season. Jake Neighbors leads the team with 7 goals, so they need more production. I think 13 of the 20 or 21 games, they've scored 2 goals or less. The power play hasn't been good enough, although it's shown signs recently of being a little bit better. But they got to have more of a shot-first mentality. Doug Armstrong mentioned it yesterday, and other people in the organization have complained about this. It's almost like they feel like they've got to pass it into the net. They overpass as much as any team in the league. They just won't shoot the puck. But Kyrou's no trade kicks in this summer, and so our no mover. No, it's a no trade. Army doesn't give out no moves. I should know that. Nobody has a no move here in St. Louis, so it's no trade kicks in this summer. So if you wanted to move him and you wanted to have the flexibility in terms of, having him not have any say in terms of where he goes, I guess you could take advantage of the language in his contract. But listen, he's a guy that you would have to get some value back in return. You got to have some players to replace these guys. But I would think some of the other guys you mentioned, there would be some interest. And if you really wanted to go down that road, I think you could find a taker.
You know, Doug Armstrong is universally respected as one of the best GMs going. Obviously made a couple of savvy moves with the offer sheets this offseason. He's Team Canada's guy. And he's kind of set a rebuild that mirrors the Kings one of old, right? I think he said 3 or 4 years, and they're a year and a half into it. But I can't help but notice he's fired 5 head coaches.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty unprecedented in the end. I don't know how often it is that GM keeps their job through 5 head coaches, but it does look like they're in good position. They do have a lot of first-round picks or prospects coming soon, do they not?
Yeah, they've got a bunch of guys coming. They got a couple of Swedes. You know, Jimmy Snuggerud, who had 4 points over the weekend, I think, who was a big star for Team USA last year in the World Juniors. He should be here at the end of the year. Dalibor Dvorsky, who was high on a lot of teams' lists. You know, they drafted him 10th overall last year. But he's 19. They want to let him play in the American League where he is right now. But he's producing, putting up points right now in the American League. Yeah, you're right. It has been a lot of coaches now. The Bannister situation was a little bit different. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, they kicked the tires on Dean Evason. I think there was legitimate interest in David Carl from University of Denver, who's has some success down there, obviously winning national championships. And that didn't work out. So I don't think they were just looking to throw a bunch of money at a coach and hand out term for somebody who didn't really excite them that much. And let's be honest with you. Everyone knew that Jim Montgomery was in the final year of his contract. He talks to a lot of people around here. I think they had some conversation about an extension there in Boston, whether it was a low ball situation or for whatever reason, they couldn't come to an agreement. I hear it was more of a low ball offer, you know, like here's your extension, you know, but we want you, but really don't. It's okay if we don't get a deal done, you know? And so I think they wanted to be patient from that standpoint. If Boston would have announced last summer that they weren't bringing Jim Montgomery back, Monty would have been hired by St. Louis last summer, you know? So I feel like this was the guy that they had targeted for quite some time, and they wanted to allow themselves to be a little bit patient. But like you said, you can only be so patient. Once he's available, don't allow another team to swoop in and create or you know, throw something on the table that's too good to pass up, and now you lose him and you're still stuck at square one. So pretty savvy, to be honest with you. I think they got the guy that they want, and they were never really overly committed to Drew Bannister. You always had a feeling that he was just kind of a placeholder until they got the guy in that they wanted.
We're talking to Andy Strickland, co-host of the Cam and Strick podcast. So, Strick, what are the odds of you talking Doug Armstrong into picking up Chris Kreider tonight after the game and taking him back to St. Louis? Apparently he's available. What are your thoughts going on in New York right now?
Is he going to get his first assist of the year? I mean, I'm looking at his numbers. He's got no assists on the year. I mean, they're an interesting team when you really dive into the numbers. Adam Fox doesn't have a goal. Trouba doesn't have a goal. It feels like they've been waiting for what's his name to get to 300 goals forever. Zibanejad, I think he's been stuck at like 298 for a while. I think he's been there at least for a little bit there. So they're just okay. You know, they're talking about throwing all this money out at Shesterkin, which, I mean, you can have your opinion on whether or not you want to do that, but like his numbers still great and good. I think as a team, they lead the league in save percentage, but his numbers are a little higher compared to where he's been in recent years with goals against average and whatnot. So, but Kreider, I would take him, man. The Blues power play, they could use a guy like that, to be honest with you. They need somebody up top who could quarterback a power play and shoot the puck, Kyper.
Yep.
So if they've got one of those, that would really help, because Neighbors isn't bad in terms of being a net front guy, and they've got some creative players with Thomas and Kyrie and Buchnevich and these guys. But I've always liked Kreider, man. He's a guy who I think he's still on a pace for like close to 40 goals. So this guy knows how to score. There's no question about that. So
the Blues are in the Winter Classic this year. Is there excitement locally? This is Chicago, St. Louis. It's not, not your typically huge matchup here.
Well, Bedard, man, are people going to be okay if Bedard doesn't make Hockey Canada? I mean, I'm reading this like this is some type of travesty if you don't put him on the roster. I mean, it's Canada. You can have 2 teams in Canada. This guy's got 3 goals and 12 assists. How many players in Canada are all-star players that are having better seasons than Connor Bedard? And I see Sidney Crosby in his, first or second year had 102 points or whatever and was left off the Olympic roster in 2006. And that did create a little bit of headlines at the time. But, I mean, getting to your question, I mean, it hasn't necessarily created that marquee feel that you were looking for. Right. I actually have 2 tickets to the game if anybody wants to buy them off of me. I might just sell the tickets. If anybody wants tickets, let me know to go to the Winter Classic. Although I'm looking forward to it. They announced their jerseys the other day, and the outdoor games are always great to go to. So
hey.
I'm planning on taking my son, but I told my wife I'm not telling him until Christmas because if the temperature's under 25, I may not go.
Hey, tickets are the same price as Taylor Swift tickets here in Toronto?
Cost?
$3,000 each, I think.
No, they're a little cheaper than that. Not much, but they're a little cheaper than that. I saw Trudeau had a good time at the concert, by the way. He got a lot of attention for that.
Yeah,
we're not just talking about that.
Kids dabbling in politics lately. What were your thoughts on that?
On that note, we'll let you go.
Have any bracelets for you to share or anything like that, but I appreciate it, guys.
We appreciate you, Strick. Thank you.
All right. Enjoy covering the game tonight. Andy Strickland, everybody.
Thanks.
Does a great job on the Cam and Strick podcast.
For the record, 38 Canadian NHLers have 15 or more points this year.
No one's taking it harder right now than Connor Bedard himself.
Is that right?
On his struggles. Do you have that soundbite?
I was just editing it while you were talking to Mr. Strickland there, and I'm putting it in so Derek can play it.
Okay.
So
before you play it, I know there's some people that still say that his talent warrants a position on Team Canada, but there's just no chance that you can send a message that rewards his play. Mm-hmm. And what are you telling other players that have played better or more deserving?
I've got a couple of nights of television this week, and on both of them we're doing something related to this. So I was going through some sort of fringe guys making the team, and I was looking at Tom Wilson's stats in November, and I was like, no goals, 6 assists. You just cannot put this guy on the team. You know, I'm going through this in my head. Connor Bedard in November, no goals, 6 assists. And he doesn't do what Tom Wilson does on the other side, you know.
Yeah, I'm a big believer of, like, if you're targeted as a fourth line guy, then those goals for Tom Wilson won't matter as much.
Well, sure.
But Connor Bedard cannot.
That's kind of the point I'm making. If you have those 2 guys and you're going to get no goals.
Can't make an argument, right, on Connor Bedard playing on the fourth role. Right.
Yeah, what's his role?
Yeah.
Like, I don't feel...
Not good enough. He's not playing good enough to be on Canada.
But I kind of disagree with Strick. Like, that's not a conversation that I have or hear about people like, oh, Bedard's got to be there. Do you have that? Do people say that to you?
No,
like,
I hear a lot of Canadians wanting the best players there.
Yeah, it's like, I don't think it's a detriment to Connor Bedard's career that he's not making one of the most stacked forward cores ever.
Yeah, you're going to pick a guy like Anthony Cirelli instead or Brandon Hagel or something like that.
It is a disappointment.
It's a disappointment.
It's a disappointment for him.
It's a disappointment for him.
For Canadians, I think, who have a lot of hope in him. But he's not there yet.
He's not ready. Canada's got some good forwards, bud. Like, they'll be okay.
I know, but he's not. He just didn't come in the league as another young, great forward. He came in as a labeled, and we're talking only about a handful of guys in the last 50 years that have had the buildup that this guy has had. Mm-hmm. That's all.
Yep.
So, do you have that sound clip?
I do have the sound clip.
Let's listen to Connor Bedard earlier this week.
From watching video, what do you see offensively right now? What can you do better?
I mean, I could name 100 things, but I don't know, man. It's been frustrating for sure, and I just don't feel like I'm really doing anything. So just keep chipping away at it, I guess, and hopefully kind of find my game again. But
100 things.
Mm-hmm. Oof.
100.
I mean, I'm very pro Bedard. I like the kid, and I
Love
think
him.
he's a very good player. Like, I think he's super talented, and I do believe that he's going to find it. But, this isn't the drafting for potential team. This is, we need you to play 4 games over a few days here.
That are important.
Need you
and
now.
Guess what? The teams you're playing against?
Yeah.
Fairly good.
No time to find it.
No.
He's never gone through anything like this. There's not a chance with
Good
this
for him.
kid. Sure. I think it
adversity.
doesn't kill you. It makes you stronger.
For
Look how
sure.
good
But they,
Lafreniere is now. He's been
definitely.
through it.
But they can't keep sucking.
What's that?
Like, if they just keep sucking
The Blackhawks.
every year,
Yeah.
they need to, like, take a step here eventually. Like, they reach.
I'll tell you who has more pressure or as much pressure as Connor himself is Luke Richardson. I mean, as a coach, you wear that yourself.
You're
that
not
you've got this
getting it out of him.
young player, and I'm not doing enough. He's revisiting his situations. He's revisiting his ice time. That's where you go to your head coach right now, and you go, I need some help.
Unfortunately, the idea of surround this guy with like good, proven veteran guys, they didn't get veteran guys who are still effective. Like, thanks, Foligno and all that, but he's
Taylor
not-
Hall, a healthy scratch.
Taylor
last
Hall
week.
is so ineffective right now. Just not helping him at all. Neither was when he was on the line with Joey Anderson and Jason Dickinson. Like, he's dying on a vine. a
Joey
little
Anderson of Leafs fame?
bit. Of Leaf something.
Yeah. He was
Yeah.
part of the McCabe trade to
Anderson was.
yeah.
Who could forget that piece?
I guess you did. What about you, Kip? You remember that? All right. It's game time. Presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly. You're talking about the St. Louis Blues with Andy Strickland there, and they fire their head coach. They bring in Jim Montgomery. So I thought it'd be interesting to look at their odds now to make the playoffs. So if you go to the standings, how far out are they? I'm just quickly pulling it up here. The last wild card spot in the West is at 24 points, and the St. Louis Blues currently sit at 19 points, 9-12-1 through 22 games played. Their odds to make the playoffs are plus 600.
Whoa.
Do you think that this move is something that is made just to have him there for the future, or do you think they'd actually get a coach public? Is that roster good enough to have any value on that number plus 600? I don't know.
So I think they can be better than they've been for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that the West is, there's, what's it going to take? 92, 93 points. It's not impossible for them to get in.
Yep.
But I think it's long term. Like Strick mentioned briefly, they have something like 4 first-round picks coming in the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm.
They're aiming at a 3-4 year rebuild. He's got a 5-year contract. I think they just want to see positive strides out of their young players and try to be more competitive. So I'm not taking that.
They're not getting in.
Okay. And a couple other interesting ones on the playoff numbers here. This is so surprising to me, but the Nashville Predators are plus 140 to make the playoffs. So there's all these teams behind them. The Flames,
I know.
the Sabres, Ottawa Senators. All these teams have longer odds to make the playoffs than the Nashville Predators do right now on Bet365, plus 140. So they believe that they're gonna figure it out. They got the play. I don't.
So what's the no side of that bet?
I just have the to make the playoffs. Just
It'd
so
be nice to get the other side of that number.
it's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm surprised by that. So anyways, I
Are
thought I'd bring that up.
the Preds better than we think?
That
Missing something?
that 3-0 loss to Seattle did not help them, but they're one team that has to go on like a heater.
Yeah.
And we haven't seen it yet, and maybe there's a feeling in Toronto that they could very much go on one right now, but there has to be a team that's going to rip off like 10 of 11 or something, and that's the only way Nashville gets in right now.
I mean, remember last
they
year?
got to go on a streak.
Last year they went 18 games, whatever.
Yeah, maybe that's
point
what they think's
streak or
gonna happen.
something. And the whole time I'm going, I don't see it from that roster. That roster's no good.
And the
I
last
don't
one,
see it here.
the last number I'll bring up is the Ottawa Senators are down to plus 190 to make the playoffs. So
Sens have a generous schedule coming up.
Yep.
What do you got on that? Sens
It's pretty easy. Like it's multiple Ducks. There's the San Jose Sharks mixed in there.
Yeah.
There's
So the Flames tonight, who I think the Flames are due to lose a hockey game at some point. Sharks, there's the Kings, Ducks, Red Wings, Preds, Isles, Ducks. Like their next 8 games, there's only one playoff team in the mix.
There you go. That was Game Time presented by Bet365. Visit the app for latest odds and find out why it's ever ordinary at Bet365. Must be 19 plus. Ontario only. Please play responsibly.
Okay, we'll pick up that Ottawa Senator conversation as they lose a key guy out on the blue line. We'll tell you who after the break when we return to Real Kyper and Bourne. Heading down the stretch on the Real Kyper and Bourne show. Nick Kypreos, Justin Bourne, Sammy McKee. This hour, Real Kyper and Bourne is brought to you by Bet365. Let's get into some news and notes. When we left off, the Ottawa Senators. Didn't seem that long ago that they beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. What, about 2 weeks ago?
Right.
Where they could not have looked better than the Leafs. Like
3-0 win, and they looked like
comprehensive victory.
next level stuff.
Yeah. Since then, they lost to Philly, Carolina, the Golden Knights, and the Canucks.
And the Canucks.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, the Oilers as well.
And defenseman Zub's out with a fractured foot.
That's bad. I think you know that, but that's not good. Team that's struggling on the defensive side of things, that doesn't help. So what's up?
I don't know. What do you do? What do you do with the Ottawa Senators? Is it a mental thing? We know they've got good players. We know that they're also locked into long-term deals.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's one team that's crying for maybe a significant shakeup, is it not this team?
It's this team. It's this team. And I got my Sens fan friends who are saying they would do anything but Stützle or Sanderson, which, by the way, I didn't mention the captain there. So, you know, people frustrated, like they need to do something else. This isn't working, right? How long can you do this?
I mean, he's still like, I saw the clips that him attacking somebody on the ice there the other night. I don't know who it was, against Vancouver.
Yeah, 4-1.
Play hockey.
It's like, it's not cute anymore.
Play hockey.
Like, you're the captain of the team, man.
I watched, and he's a guy he's got 80-plus point seasons. He could score 40 goals.
Yeah.
And I watched him the other day. They're in a fairly close game, and he's just looking for someone to run into, looking for someone to be angry at. Like, you're so good.
Yeah.
Do hockey.
Do the hockey stuff. Do the hockey, dude.
So I don't know. You think there's potential for them to to be active?
I think they've got to do something. I do. Yeah.
I think people are frustrated.
And it's not helping that you went and spent $8.25 million on a goalie, and he hasn't looked like anything like you would have hoped the first 20 games in. But
you have to just believe that's going to sort itself out.
Yeah, I know, but like by when? It's that American Thanksgiving thing going on right now.
Yeah. Well, what are you saying?
I'm saying that
him.
No, I'm saying that now
310, 881.
Now the odds are starting to go against you that you're going to make the playoffs.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, for sure. You can't trade Allmark like that contract is.
No, you can't. But you've got to find a different way to buy time or to get a different look in front of him and wait for him to come around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, all strength save percentage for the Ottawa Senators. They're near the bottom of the league, bottom 6 or 7 teams, whatever it is exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been a major issue. The other part is everyone has good young players that they draft, and then they're prospects, and then they make the team, and then fans are happy, but they still have to become better than other good players. Is Norris going to get there, and Pinto going to get there, and Greg going to get there, and are these guys just going to be okay? If they're just okay, that's not great. And so some new bodies. I think they're disappointed with what they're getting out of Perron and the fourth line. And
how long ago was it that Pierre Dorian said
we're a team?
The build is over, and now we're ready to contend. Was that
2 or 3 years?
3 years ago?
Yeah.
I thought you were talking about we're a team. That he said to David Amber, which was one of the greatest lines.
Greatest strengths of your team. We're a team.
We're a team.
We're a team.
And David Amber said that try not to laugh.
It really may have come down to him just signing everybody prematurely.
Yeah.
It's tough. You get excited. You want to keep people.
One of their biggest problems is they've got Jake Sanderson and Shabbat, and they're both making $8 million, and you only need one of them. And I can tell you who it is.
You
We
need
can all
Sanderson.
tell you who it
wanna
is
Keep Sanderson.
all day long.
Yeah.
Like, Shabbat's got to go.
Really?
Really.
Think there's a market for him?
He's got a modified no trade.
Find a market.
Okay.
You find one.
I actually agree with that because he's a guy who's going to play a lot of minutes for you. He's now, 27 years old or something? He's not a young guy anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and if you feel like he's not physical, not a hard defender, not enough things, yeah.
It just felt like they tried to do, they're like, let's sign all of them to the cheap contracts, like the quote unquote long-term cheap ones that always work out.
It's the Jack Hughes
Yeah,
thing.
it's like, let's get them all under contract because they're all so good. And then, year 4 of it, and you're like, oh, crap, maybe.
I think this is one of my core beliefs that you can't, not everyone is built to get a long-term contract. Like, you need to be so sure before committing to, 8 years of a guy's life.
That's a lot.
Okay. Lots of noise around the New York Rangers, more specifically about potentially moving major players out, including maybe blowing up their whole program, according to one of their local veteran writers, and Larry Brooks.
New York Post, Larry Brooks. The title is, "It's Time to Blow Up This Underachieving Rangers Core." I would like to fill everyone in. The Rangers are 12-6-1.
I guess that's what you're saying, Brooks.
I guess that's what I'm saying.
There it is.
Elliot
Brooksy.
Friedman dropped the name Chris Kreider out there as a potential.
And Trouba.
Well, no, Trouba's been out there.
Yeah.
They wanted to get rid of Trouba in the summer.
Why? Neither captain.
Listen, it's a really sensitive situation there with Trouba in that room as the captain, and knowing
Really?
that your team wanted
think
to
they hate
trade
his
you.
art? Do you think they hate his art? Have you seen his art? Do you not know about his art?
Oh, I know about his art.
He's quite an artist.
Yeah.
Is he?
I'm not going to make fun of the guy for having interest.
No, but you make fun of this particular interest.
I am pretty sure the art has nothing to do with it.
Okay.
I'm quite comfortable in that. But at $8 million, I think he's got next year, if I'm not
He
mistaken.
does. This and next at 8.
This
He's
and
30
next.
years old.
They tried to move him out, and he made it clear to the Rangers that there's a family situation, and I'm not lifting my no move.
Oh, really? 0 goals, 6 assists. He's playing 20, 32 a night. That's a tempting guy, right? I mean, we talk about him as being today's Scott Stevens. He's the preeminent open ice hitter in the league. He's physical. He defends well, I think.
I
well
just
enough?
don't know, if teams are willing to eat all of that, or how much the Rangers would have to hold on. But again, I got to go back to, he's made it clear that he does not want to go anywhere because of a family situation.
Is this just as much to change the look and wake up the room, or what's if you're trading Kreider and Trouba, which are two identity guys of this era of that, like Brooksy wrote there in his headline. I don't know.
To me, they're talking about Zibanejad and Panarin.
Well, they're older, right? We're talking about guys in their 30s. Zibanejad's what, 32?
Yeah, and looks all of that. Not sure exactly what it is.
Zibanejad is 31 with, oh my goodness.
Yeah, he's
I can't even count the years available still on his contract. 5 maybe?
Yeah, it goes all the way to the end. Yeah, it looks like till
5.
2029.
5. Chris Kreider has got 6.5 for 2 more years.
Zibanejad has 14 points in 19 games.
Minus
10. Minus 10?
Yeah.
They're good.
I just
Got a
find
good
it
goalie.
I find it kind of strange, guys, that and I know they got the crap beat out of them, or beaten on the score clock anyways Saturday night against Edmonton 6-2, but they're in the, what's their record? 12-6-1.
They're what the Leafs are, but
Okay.
a little better.
They're
20%
number
close.
1 seed in the East today in the wild card.
Now,
Why?
Yeah.
Why the panic right now?
I
I don't
think-
understand.
Kip, I think there's some self-awareness.
Yeah.
They have the number 1 save percentage in the NHL. Now, I'll stop myself there. So first save percentage in the NHL, and their underlying numbers aren't great. But they do have the goalie. The goalie is Sam, as we like to say. He's on the team.
Yeah, he's on the team.
He gets to be a good player for you too. So it's not like they're going to regress. He's a Vezina winner necessarily.
Yeah.
So they're a good team with them. It doesn't sound like shipping guys out to ship them out helps. So they must want a different type of player there. They're looking for something, right?
Yeah. And
That bottom line of Jimmy Vesey, Sam Carrick, and Matt Rempe,
Yeah.
you're not winning a cup.
I think he's got. I'm not sure if it's a complete no move. He may have one of those limited, but I think teams would have to know that he'd be willing to go.
Who?
Trouba.
Yeah, yeah.
And as far as Kreider goes, I think there'd be teams
Falling over themselves. He's huge. He's fast. He shoots it in the net.
like we were just talking about the Ottawa Senators, but I would believe that part of his list of teams that he wouldn't want to go to
Probably
as an
not.
American
He's American.
would be anywhere in Canada, not
Yeah.
just Ottawa.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Sens are on that list.
But he would be a type of guy that I'd go, okay, he's a little older than the rest of them, and he's had playoff success. And
That's the thing when you tape on guys like Perron or Giroux. It's like, if they're not, Giroux's been effective, mind you, but you need some guys who are still effective, even and older. I look at that Rangers decor, Keandre Miller and Adam Fox. Sure,
no, they're not playing well right
No.
now. And Adam Fox is not like
it's been disappointing since the Norris.
I don't know if he's tired or hurt or, maybe just the fact that he's not the biggest guy in the world is kind of catching up to him a little bit.
I was actually just going to say that I think they're thin, particularly if they move Trouba. Braden Schneider, Zach Jones, Ryan Lindgren.
Keandre Miller has regressed. He was really, in the last year, looked like
always
he
seemed
was
like
going
a
to be
potential guy. Like he's big and fast, and like the potential
Like
is still there.
like a Hedman type of guy.
Mhm.
But he's nowhere near that right now. And he was better last year than he is this year. And Lindgren plays hard, but looks like to me a little wear and tear. I mean, how many times have we seen him leave a game and then come back, right? And you're like, okay, he's done for the night. He comes back. He's tough as nails, but he's weathered.
So you're just not. What I think maybe their general manager is looking at is just saying that we have a really good goalie and we're overperforming, and I don't like the feel of this group, and I gotta shake it up. But
The Rangers have played I just was looking this up. They're the
think
fourth easiest schedule in the NHL
Really?
this year. Which
and, the coach too. It's like Laviolette. Like he seems like I don't know.
I don't know how much fire there is to this smoke, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I think what he did was
this is the shakeup.
it's just he's rattling some chains
Put
right
some
now.
bees in the bonnets.
Cages. He's rattling
Modern
cages.
expression.
And I think that's why you go and leak it to the media.
Yeah, makes sense.
When was the last time we saw
Like that.
was that?
I wouldn't like that. Not that.
When was the last time we saw like a guy like Chris Kreider at $6.5 million get traded in the middle of the season?
Yeah, just like a player trade.
That was
player for
not
player.
that was not
Requested.
on an expiring contract.
Mhm.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah, it's
happen.
Very
Doesn't
uncommon.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. They need him. Want to talk about the Penguins? Speaking of, we're talking about all the happy
positive.
teams.
Sidney Crosby, 600 goals. Is that we're really thrilled still about that? Is that still
That's
work
great.
for you?
I mean,
I think it's unbelievable and amazing that he got to 600 goals, 1,600 points, 3 Stanley Cups, and 2 Conn Smythes. The only other guy to ever do that in the history of the league is Wayne Gretzky. So
wow.
I think that's pretty amazing. I also think it's completely heartbreaking that he got the 600th goal in a 6-1 loss to the club the Leafs lost to last night. I think it's honestly, that situation is a perfect microcosm for where the Pittsburgh Penguins are at. Sidney
you
Crosby
just-
getting his 600th in a loss to the Utah 6-1.
Yeah, not
You should fight more.
You can tell that's frustration though. Like,
That's
what else do you
embarrassing,
do for
too.
your team? Like,
Humiliating.
Just
embarrassing.
Just looking to do something, not for Sid, but for the
No,
Penguins.
of course not for Sid. Like,
Yeah.
Not for
can
Sid,
somebody else
for
jump out there and
for 19 other guys, you should feel humiliated.
Like if you're on the bench and,
I'm not
and you
I'm
see
not,
your
I'm-
star player doing that, you're like, oh, that's supposed to be me.
I'm the next guy to get thrown out of that game.
right.
I cannot leave the game with the rest of them
Just
coming
going
off
in
the ice.
chipper without no sweat.
Oh my
Good effort,
gosh.
Sid. Take
How
off
do you
your
look that
sock
guy
tape
in the
room.
eye when he's fighting,
fighting.
right? When he's fighting and you're just
But
Who's in this bottom half of
But-
that lineup?
get
That's
to
got
leave the game.
they got Phil Tomasino today. Phil Tomasino is there. He's on the scene. Tomasino came across for a 4th-round pick from Nashville, 23 years old. I think he has 4 points in 11 games this year. He did have 11 goals as a rookie a couple years ago. 1st-rounder, 24th overall. There's all the Phil Tomasino information.
And who else?
and classic.
Yeah, and who else?
Dubas guy. Like
A little bit
reclamation offensive guy that just like will not do anything.
Or buy low.
Like if that building by January, February is
Oh my
half
God.
empty,
It's bad, eh?
right? It's really bad.
Well, so are they.
Like,
Hey,
Well,
Dubas-
it's not good.
what do they have, guys? What do they have that's even tradable?
Well, they have when he went there, Dubas, there was no picks. Like he had nothing in that regard. Player wise, you can't trade the good players, apparently. It's against the rules. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Like Puljujärvi was a buy low guy. Matt Nieto was a buy low guy.
Kevin Hayes.
Lizotte.
Did Sid purposely re-sign at 8-7 just in case
To make it movable.
he needed an exit strategy?
I mean, he needs it. Get ready. Like the strategy should start, but it's not going
Could
to.
it get bad enough that he would want out?
I don't know.
The answer, I thought for sure no,
This is uncomfortable.
but I'm starting to kind of think that way.
Yeah.
It's just there's
perfect
too much.
third line center for the Leafs.
There's
Perfect.
just
Ooh, it's also
Too
a lot
much.
of problems at a great rate.
too much
Can you
hockey.
imagine Dubas trading Crosby to the Leafs?
That would be the
The
day.
only way to salvage his legacy.
That would
here.
be the day that I'd be like, you know what? That Kyle,
Not so bad.
after all.
Everything's great.
That's a tough one for Kyle.
I mean, I don't know what you do. Your hands were tied to start with, but certainly hasn't made it better. That contract to Ryan Graves is a struggle.
Didn't have to trade for Erik Karlsson.
Carlson is just a disaster. They got to trade Carlson. That's what they got to do.
To who?
Can't do it.
No.
No, it's just even at $5 million, that guy would scare me to come into my room.
Yeah, you're not just talking about on the ice. You mean it's a big personality to.
Sucks a lot of oxygen.
You know, it kind of makes you look a little different at the Brett Burns thing in San Jose. Burns is playing with Slavin in Carolina, and they're the best defensive pair in the NHL.
Really?
Put
What
a
a
period on
pickup.
the end of it.
What a-
and he's offensively great.
You love Burns.
What a pickup.
You love Burns.
But just watch him still.
Yeah.
The juice that he still has
But he
at
was
his age.
prime in San Jose when Carlson was there, and he must have been like, this guy.
Speaking of which, Kochetkov is out with a concussion, so it's Spencer Martin.
Yeesh. And Freddie's out long term. Like it's like 8 to 12 weeks. Just
I think you're done being able to count on Freddie. Days are.
Yeah.
Those
Oh,
days
no. That's over.
can they
It's over.
just stop zagging so hard and just go get a damn goalie?
Yeah,
for
they
once?
will.
Well, this reminds me of the Devils. The Devils
They
like
will.
had a good team, and then like we have no way to fix this problem, and then they went and got Markstrom, and it was like, oh,
Oh, now they're the best team in the Metro. What a surprise.
This has Gibson written all over it.
oh.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I gotta tell you, I have some like not great thoughts about Gibson based on him not wanting out of Anaheim all these years when they've been bad. Like, go compete.
They'll pick up 40% of that contract, 50%. It'll be.
Ducks will?
Oh, yeah.
You think?
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to see him behind Carolina's defense.
Oh, yeah.
He might be really good in that spot.
All right. On that note, our thanks to Joshua Kloke in our Leaf edition of our show, and then Andy Strickland putting a bow on Jim Montgomery, who will lead St. Louis against the New York Rangers tonight. All right, boys, good job today. We got through a Marner conversation, and we didn't want to kill each other. That's good.
Tune in tomorrow to see if it's the same.
Have a great night, everybody.